Caitlin just said it, and I'm going to say it again. Let's do it. There is a lot happening at this hour, and we're going to guide you through not just this hour, but the next hour, as we have breaking news on multiple fronts. We have all of it covered, all of it live, with the experts that you're going to want to hear from now until 2 p.m. Let's begin right there, top left-hand side. That's the White House. And right now, the King of England and the Queen are there meeting with the President and the First Lady. We do have an expert that knows everything about what is happening during this historic visit, 4 days. You need to know this. The King will not see his son, who lives in California, during that visit. Again, we've got the guy you want to hear from to tell us why that is happening. Top, go over to the right, you see it. Good news for once in a very long time. The New York Stock Exchange, that's a live image right there. And it looks like your money is in the red. Below that image, again, another live camera. This one coming to you from a helicopter. We call it Skyfox. The chopper is above a situation in Hunting Park. There's an escaped prisoner. He basically escaped from Presbyterian Hospital around 10 a.m. And the police response is massive. It goes block to block. We'll talk about that in just a few seconds. And then as we go on the air, we do know this. The manager of the Phillies, with the worst record in baseball, with the MLB All-Star Week headed here in a few months, has been fired. I'm going to say it again. The manager, Rob Thomson, has been fired. We have not just one guest, but 3 total. We're going to break this down as we prepare you for a 2:45 live press conference where you will hear from the man who made that decision. We've got this story covered from all angles, but I want to bring you back to the Hunting Park neighborhood here in Philadelphia, where again, we do have an escaped prisoner. And again, this individual escaped from a hospital. What we don't know is why this individual was being treated, for what, and we don't know what crime put that individual in the corrections department. Again, it's an escaped prisoner. So we're not sure where that individual came from. We're not sure where that individual might be headed to, but we do know this. The police presence started in North Philadelphia, and it goes block to block to block. The team that works our assignment desk, the team that tells you where our crews will be assigned, said this police presence is massive. And I'm going to say that again, block to block to block. It did start in North Philadelphia. Now you are looking at a live image coming to you from our helicopter, and this is the Hunting Park section of Philadelphia. So many questions here, right? Who is the person, and where could that person have gone? How did that individual escape? Is this person a threat to the community? We do know that many times prisoners who are desperate do see a hospital visit as a desperate way out.
We're in Pelton, not Hunting
Now
Park.
we're in Pelton. So again, block to block to block, police are looking for an escaped prisoner. Interesting there, the fact that the police search has gone block to block to block gives you some idea of just how desperate the police are to find this person, to apprehend this person. Certainly, this is going to be a very big day for those individuals, and everyone involved is really, really hoping they can find them. I'm just hearing from Jackie, again, one of the professionals that works on our assignment desk, that this is Powelton, and the search area is expanding as we go on the air. So some of the questions that we have for you, that you probably have as you look at these images along with us, is who is this person? Is this person a threat to the neighborhood? Are there schools that could be impacted? Those are all of the questions that we will absolutely get the answers to. Just so you know, this is a story that we're going to be covering throughout the day. We want to make sure you guys are safe. Skyfox is on it. We will stay on top of it as well. At the very same time, we do have a breaking news story in the world of sports. You see it right there. That is Citizens Bank Park. And this was a story, candidly, that people have been waiting for the past couple of days. I'm going to say it again. With the eyes of baseball ready to come right here to Philadelphia in July, the Phillies record right now in 2026, 9-19. It is the worst record in MLB. So we're going to go again to another expert, PHLY's Phillies reporter, the guy that really has the inside track on all of this, Corey Seidman. Good afternoon to you. I know it's a busy day. I appreciate you popping in. Many people said that they would have to wait until 40 games to get this done, but are you surprised that it's happening today?
If you would have asked me a month ago if I would have been surprised if Rob Thomson would not make it out of the month of April as Phillies manager, I would say yes, that would be a very shocking set of circumstances. But when you look at the way that this team has played on the field, especially over the last 2 weeks, they're not doing anything right offensively, defensively, starting pitching, bullpen, and it just reached a point where something needed to change. This is the life cycle of sports. So whether or not Rob Thomson was the specific reason and the man to blame, this was almost inevitable that he was going to get the axe for the way that the Phillies have played. So now we'll see if they can actually wake up. You made a great point that the baseball world is going to descend upon South Philadelphia in July for the All-Star game. I can bet you that Phillies ownership does not want to be bottoming out and selling off pieces for that event.
So Bob Nightingale from USA Today, he is reporting that Alex Cora, the manager up in Boston who was fired, was offered the gig first. He said he wants to stay with family. Beat writers are saying he probably wants to get paid to sit at home this summer. We know that Preston Mattingly is the GM there. So now Dom Mattingly takes over. It'll be the first father-son duo in these roles ever. What do you make of the decision?
Well, that aspect of it will be pretty cool. And I mean, Don Mattingly is an extremely well-respected baseball man, a baseball lifer. He also has 12 years of managerial experience, although none since 2022. I don't think that there's going to be a huge change in tone from Rob Thomson to Don Mattingly. When the Phillies fired Joe Girardi in 2022 and Rob Thomson was named the interim manager, that was a big difference in personality from the more tense, tight Joe Girardi to a laid-back Thomson. Well, Don Mattingly and Rob Thomson are similarly even-keeled with the same type of demeanor. As far as Alex Cora, it would not surprise me at all if he's managing the Phillies next season. But from his perspective, A, as you mentioned, he's getting paid to sit home for the rest of the season. And B, who knows if this is an appealing situation moving forward. There might be 5 to 7 other managerial vacancies next season that Alex Cora can pick from because he's going to be a hot commodity himself.
What about the personality between Cora and Mattingly? How are they similar? How are they different?
Well, not having covered Alex Cora, I don't know on a day-to-day basis, but I can say that just from afar, watching him, he's a big guy on fundamentals. He seems to really value the relationship building aspect of it. And if you listen to what his Red Sox players have said in the days since he was fired, they're pretty annoyed about it. Although, they cost him his job the same way that the Phillies' underperformance cost Rob Thomson his job. The bottom line is that this roster, this $315 million Phillies payroll, which is second in all of baseball to the Dodgers, has woefully underperformed. They have like 5 guys who have done their job this season. They need to turn that around because if not, this is not going to be the last major shoe to drop in 2026.
So do you see them responding? I know they're at home tonight against San Francisco, I believe. Do you see something new happening? Like, are they freaking out in the clubhouse? They're probably texting him saying we're sorry. Like, what's happening today and what do we expect to see moving forward?
Well, I'll be down there in a couple hours, but I'm expecting a somber atmosphere and a lot of guys taking accountability for the fact that they cost Rob Thomson his job. A lot of times you see that a team, like the night after they fire their manager, wins a game 9-1. It's almost because they've bottomed out to the point where the law of averages says they're due for a big game anyway. So I'm curious to see what the next 2 weeks bring for the Phillies. They just faced the Cubs, Braves, back to back to back to back. And those are two of the best teams in the National League. So naturally, the schedule will lighten up a bit with the Giants and the Marlins this weekend, although I will say that the Marlins are a team that's a little bit peskier than their record would indicate. When the Phillies fired Joe Girardi in 2022, immediately they took off. And that's what enabled Rob Thomson to be named the full-time manager, because when he took over at that point, there really wasn't a thought that this lifelong bench coach was going to be the Phillies manager of the future. But that's how well they responded to him. We'll see if they can respond similarly to Don Mattingly.
So who will be the leader in that clubhouse? We know that, America looks at Bryce Harper as the face of this team. I think in Philadelphia, we look at Kyle Schwarber as the guy that really is swinging the bats, making it work, doing what needs to be done day in and day out. So who will be that leader? Who are these guys going to look to as they move forward?
They lead in different ways. Bryce Harper's more of a quiet leader. Like, he's not the kind of guy who often is going to give that big stirring speech. Even though he plays like his hair's on fire, that's not necessarily the way he is behind closed doors all the time. Kyle Schwarber is more of that guy who brings everybody together, gathers you around. He might be giving the team a speech. Another guy is Zach Wheeler, quiet leadership. The Phillies have more guys who kind of lead by example, JT Realmuto being another one of them. That's one aspect of this, though, that I'm not too concerned about, because they have had this core together for so long, for better or worse. The better part of it is that they all know each other. They know what they need to do. There's probably some difficult conversations being had right now, but this is just professional sports. If you don't perform, especially when the expectations are this high, something's going to happen, because we came into the season nationally and locally expecting this Phillies team to win like 95 games and push for a World Series. And yet here we are, the first month isn't even over, and the division looks like an far-fetched afterthought.
They won the division last year, bears repeating. And I heard on sports radio this morning, they're hoping to get a wild card spot. I mean, I really think after season of getting to Red October and exiting early, you just said it, expectations were extremely high. You look again, I keep mentioning the MLB All-Star Weekend. Every team kind of gets a participation trophy player in that game. Can you imagine if we only have one guy participating?
That would be shocking, especially after, I think it was 2024, where the Phillies tied the major league record with 8 or 9 All-Stars. Just to reach 87 wins from this point, the Phillies need to do better than winning 3 of every 5. They need like a .620 winning percentage just to get to 87 wins, which probably gets you that third wild card a little bit in that conversation. But that was not the expectation coming into this year. Kind of just speaks to the enormous hole that the Phillies have dug themselves. There's a lot of people saying, oh, it's still early, it's still April. I think today's news certainly indicates that the Phillies feel otherwise, because they're looking up at a Braves team that just outclassed them over the last 2 weeks, that looks far superior to them. And this is another year in the prime of Bryce Harper's career, Kyle Schwarber's career. You might only have Zach Wheeler through the end of 2027 before his contract is over. So this needs to happen now for the Phillies. It could be now or never.
Last question, Corey. You're a guy that's in the building every day, day in, day out. You know the men that are leading this team. You know the men that are on the team. What's the question I'm not asking? What are you looking at? What are you going to ask at the 2:45 press conference today?
Well, I just look at this as a larger issue of roster construction. I don't see it as a managerial shakeup changing the trajectory of the 2026 Phillies. I look at a team that has a roster that got largely stale, did not improve enough, and there were a slew of failed signings, whether they were long-term signings or short-term signings. You run through like Whit Merrifield, Max Kepler, Jordan Romano. Trey Turner has not lived up to his 11-year, $300 million contract so far. There have been failed signings in the bullpen. So the Phillies have made good moves along the way. They improved their regular season win total 5 years in a row. But I'm just looking at the right now and the future. And I don't know if this core has the ability to get it done this year. And if it doesn't, how do they shake things up into 2027? So those aren't going to be questions that are going to be answered today at 2 o'clock, but that's kind of what's on my mind, the big picture of how do they push this thing forward beyond maybe a short-term managerial change boosting them.
Corey, as a Phillies reporter for PHLY, arguably your busiest day of the year, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we look forward to watching your reporting moving forward.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Good luck today. All right. So again, speaking of today, you just heard it. They have fired the manager of the Phillies, who actually for a long time was a fan favorite. I'm talking about Rob Thomson. So you just saw what we have on deck, the beginning of it right there. That's Corey Seidman. As I said, you've seen that. We do have some other experts that are coming. Bob Cooney is going to join us at 1 p.m. He is definitely talking Phillies, and he's definitely going to talk Sixers. He is the guy in the room for all of the Sixers games. And then right here at Fox 29, we have an excellent executive producer of sports. His name, Scott Grayson. You're going to hear from him at 2:45. And then that press conference, 2:45 p.m., the Phillies will be there to answer many of the questions from the beat reporters and, of course, from the fans. You're going to get all of it in one spot right here. We've got 2 minutes. We're going to take a quick break. Today is busy. You can't go anywhere else. right, guys, I said it at the top, and I mean it. We have a lot happening, all of it live, right here. We're happy you're here. So right there, we have a live picture at the Capitol. There is so much happening in Washington, D.C. We will get there. And then also, top right-hand side, your money's looking good. Why is that noteworthy? It hasn't looked good for several days. Can the market sustain a positive flow? That will be the question of the week. It is only Tuesday. We're going to be on this story as we look at that live image from the New York Stock Exchange. And then we have the Queen of England with the First Lady of the United States of America. That is a live image. Of course, we have Citizens Bank Park because we are also talking about your Phillies. So as we bring this image, this historic image of the two First Ladies, if you will, we have the Queen and the First Lady of the United States. Interesting that they're both wearing hats. We have seen Mrs. Trump in years past, including the inauguration, definitely don a hat. But many women in the United Kingdom, in England, regularly wear a hat, and you see that the Queen is definitely doing so. This is a very historic visit. The King and the Queen are in the United States for 4 days. The President of the United States is very proud of this visit. He has said many, many times that he is so pleased that the royal couple are here in the United States. One of the things that many people had been asking, while the royal couple, while the King and Queen are on American ground, will they make time for a meeting with their son, Prince Harry, Meghan? Many people had really thought this would be a time where the King and Queen could interact in a meaningful way with their grandchildren. So coming up, we are going to be speaking with a royal expert that will detail what is going on in that relationship. But wow, you can see just a lovely, lovely time there at the White House after a weekend that can only be described as chaotic. The peace comes after the chaos. So we will continue to follow that story throughout the next hour and 2 hours as those live images continue to come in. The other thing that is happening today, Elon Musk is very, very mad at some of his former co-investors. We're talking about OpenAI. We have Anthony Mongaluzzo here, our tech experts, expert that we love having. So I said to you, I was listening to this a little bit this morning on the radio. Basically, the OpenAI team kind of envisioned this as a nonprofit, and then part of the team redirected, and that's why Elon Musk is suing. Do I have that correct?
100%. And Elon's always very active on X, but if you look at his activity, calling him Scam Altman, Elon is really trying to spike the ball online, sharing every opinion. So this is going to be a landmark case, and it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes, despite the fact that, OpenAI has shifted from a nonprofit to a for-profit. It's also very questionable how great their model is. It hallucinates, I want to say 16 or 17% of the time. It has brain fog, gives you a wrong answer. So there's a lot of holes right now in that game.
Again, for people who don't speak tech, hallucinate, again, you said it, when you get a wrong answer. There's kids using it for their biology homework. There are physicians asking questions if they forget it during their certification. When this thing that we're beginning to trust a lot hallucinates, that's a failure in the system. How does that compare to Claude?
So Claude, in my opinion, is much more sophisticated, but Claude also has its issues. I actually shared a story that just came out with our team that Claude broke its own rule set at a company and deleted a database and all of the backups because it wasn't performing. The owners, the operators of that AI had rules in place where it wasn't supposed to do it. And look, kind of like one of your children, right? You raise them right, you tell them not to do things, and sometimes they're bad. And in this case, it was a very expensive form of bad. So there's so many different platforms out there. We talked a little bit last week about the potential of hacking and different things. Claude's actually holding one of its AI components back right now because they think it's too scary. So we are in a brave new world right now.
Okay, so or is it a new era? Taylor Swift is now filing a trademark application. She wants to protect her voice and image from AI. Can she do that?
I believe that she can. She actually filed three trademarks, one being "Hey, this is Taylor," and another one saying her name. And yeah, I mean, it's a very scary thing because I mean, you could buy apps for $4, $3 on the App Store and make your favorite celebrity say whatever they want. But again, it's also a tough thing because look, we're publicly available right now, you and I. And someone could choose to duplicate our voice. I mean, one of the things that I covered with AI in the past was someone grabbed my voice either from one of these segments or my YouTube or my podcast, and they used my voice to call my mom to ask for money and had me yelling in the background saying that I was captured. So I mean, it's definitely it's a new era.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning where we talked about this open AI lawsuit. Elon Musk wants billions of dollars because they've made so much money. Is he going to get it? Do you think he has a case?
So here's the caveat here. Elon actually wants billions of dollars, but he does not want it personally. He wants them to switch it back to a nonprofit, and whatever winnings that he gets from this case, he wants to funnel it into OpenAI to make it a better product. I don't know all the discovery that's out there in the lawsuit yet, but what I would say, based on everything that I've read online and everything that's been publicly available with the case, I'm not going to say it's a slam dunk with our legal system, but I think Elon has a very high probability of success here.
Right. Anthony Mangluzzo, what I love about you is you're so credible. You know what you're talking about. And then you candidly, and this is a compliment, you don't speak nerd when you come on. So thank you for making the time for us.
Thank you. Try no geek, no geek.
There you go. All right. So if you live in the city of Philadelphia or anywhere around the city of Philadelphia, and you've had to take a Greyhound bus, maybe to New York City, maybe put your kid on a bus to go to State College or down the shore, it's been a bit sketchy, right? Where do you get on the bus? Where do you meet the bus that you've paid for? It's been in limbo for quite some time. Chris O'Connell says those days are now over. Hey, Chris.
Good afternoon, Jen. Yeah, the answer to your question is where do you go? It was literally under a bridge. That is where the Philadelphia bus terminal was. It was outdoors. It was not off street, right on the street. Matter of fact, we were just there about a half hour ago when a Greyhound bus took off for Boston and New York with people wondering. We actually talked to one of them who was the first time she was ever taking a bus, and she was looking around, could not believe that the bus terminal was under a bridge at 2nd and Spring Garden Streets. That is because the city bus terminal, really the Greyhound bus terminal, as you see behind me on 10th and Filbert, closed about 3 years ago. That all changes on Friday. Take a look. The 10th and Filbert bus terminal now operated by the Philadelphia Parking Authority. It was ribbon cutting just happened a couple hours ago. Mayor Sherelle Parker features, first of all, watch yourself, upgraded, fully renovated inside, air conditioning, heater, 11 bays for buses. About 20 bus companies have already signed up, including Greyhound, Peter Pan, the rest of them. But look at this place, Jen. Absolutely gorgeous.
That's a major upgrade.
They just opened it. They had a major upgrade. Lots of fresh paint, seating for about 180 people. And the best thing about this, Jen, it has a roof. And for people using this facility, the mayor was telling us about today, number one, it's the most affordable mode of transportation out there. And secondly, is when people came into the city, this may be their first impression. So they wanted a space, especially with America 250 coming up, the FIFA World Cup. They said this was a priority to get a new bus terminal, and here it is. So as of Friday, all the buses that normally would be going under 2nd and Market, they will be coming here. This is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is staffed. It will have security. But in terms of what we were talking about, some passengers, they just couldn't believe there was no bus terminal without a roof. So now things are changing a little bit. And here's the other thing, Jen. They're already talking about what this place will look like in 10 years from now. They're already starting to talk about where a more permanent bus terminal will be in 10 years from now. They're looking towards the future, looking towards affordable transportation. And they said they had to do this. And they said it came in under budget and on time, even earlier than expected. So as of Friday, buses will be coming out of the 10th and Filbert bus terminal, now operated by the Philadelphia Parking Authority, Jen.
You will forgive me, Chris, because you know I have news ADHD. I am distracted. Why haven't we had this? Like, it's insane to me that, like, you go to Colorado, they got a bus terminal that's inside. Why haven't we had a place like this all along?
Well, number one, Greyhound owned this building. And then when they switched their business model, they went to some on-street pickups. They got rid of this building, and it's been in limbo ever since. And the city, in partnership with the Philadelphia Parking Authority, took over this building to make sure we have a bus terminal. Keep in mind that the outdoor bus terminals were changing. It was down at 7th and Market for a little while, then at Spring Garden. So now all of them will come here right in the heart of Center City.
All right, I don't like getting a parking ticket, but if it means I get a bus terminal, maybe once a year. Chris O'Connell, thank you. We appreciate the help. All right, we do have a lot going on. So many live cameras, so many things. We're going to take just 2 minutes and get right back to you guys. So one of the stories that we have been covering all week and the better part of last week are these Georgia wildfires. As you've seen, hundreds of thousands of acres, and I do believe 1,200 homes have been destroyed. The Georgia governor, who happens to be Brian Kemp, is speaking live now.
Long nights, continue to patrol, spray water, and they will start working. They'll start working, say, 25 foot in, right? Like that's usually an industry standard, as we get everything 25 foot in, and then they'll come back around and they'll try to get everything 50 foot in. And so we'll keep pinching it inwards to where things are far enough from the line. The other things they do, and we're being really proactive with it on the Highway 82 fire, is dead snags or trees that may have a cavity, up high that has fire in it. We're dropping those and falling those back into the black. So that way we don't have threat of trees, especially with the rain we received over there. The root systems are compromised, and so we've had a lot of wind, we've had a little bit of rain, so we're worried about trees coming over the line, so we're working on pushing those back into the fire itself so they don't fall.
All right, thank you all. That's all we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, this is a press conference. You see the governor there of Georgia, Brian Kemp, just kind of giving people an update on what is happening. As I said, I do believe it's in the number of 1,200 homes have been destroyed. It's in the area of southern Georgia, also touching northern Florida. And that team, along with federal and state authorities, they've done just about anything and everything to try to get this thing under control. We saw it last week where a reporter, Robert Ray from Fox Weather, had this video of this red material that he described like sticky, that they basically were kind of bombing out of the sky to try and choke out the oxygen on the ground, because a big part of the issues there has been wind. So they're trying to take out all the oxygen. At the same time, again, there are literally, more than 1,000 families that will never have anywhere to go back to, and thousands of families that have been evacuated and are still trying to figure out what they're going to do, where their kids are going to go to school, where their groceries are going to come from. So many issues there. So we are thinking about our southern neighbors in Georgia. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We're going to talk about the White House. We're going to continue to talk about the Phillies. And of course, it's game day. The Sixers are playing. What the heck is going on there? Guys, just a few minutes before we went on with you, we learned that the Phillies manager, Rob Thomson, has been relieved of duty. They fired him. And many people are not surprised by this move. As we look at a live image of Citizens Bank Park, where the Phillies will play tonight, I can tell you this team has the worst record in all of baseball. They are 9-19. Last year, 96-66. And they finished at the top of their division, which is the National League East. Rob Thomson, when he first started, when he took over for Girardi, was arguably a big fan favorite. There were people wearing T-shirts that said, they called him Philly Rob, I ride with Topper. There was really a lot of support for the decision when he took over. And he was with the Phillies in the managerial position for 4 seasons. That all happened, by the way, when he took over for Joe Girardi back in 2022. And under his reign, he did lead the team to 4 straight playoff appearances. So overall, his record is 355 to 269. And if you're curious, that is the 10th most wins by a Phillies manager. Don Mattingly is now the interim manager, formerly the bench coach. So what's interesting is when we hear about Don Mattingly being the interim manager, which, by the way, his son, Preston Mattingly, is now his boss at GM. And just like you see right here from Bob Nightingale, this will be the first time in MLB history that it'll be a GM and a manager father-son duo. The other thing that Bob Nightingale has reported, and again, he is a very well-respected reporter, works for USA Today. He did report that although Mattingly is going to take over, that Alex Cora was offered the Phillies managerial job before Mattingly. Remember, Alex was just relieved of duty in Boston, and the players there were not happy about that decision. So once he declined that offer, said he wanted to spend time with family, that's when Mattingly was assigned interim manager. We do believe he will serve in that position for the rest of the season. And if you have followed his career, at times he has been a fan favorite. This guy has managerial experience, so he knows what it takes to lead a team. You just heard from Corey Seidman, and one of the things that he said was like his mood, his temperament, his managerial style is like Don Mattingly. So it is interesting when you think about you're changing the position because you want a change in the team, but you made the change with someone who is more like what you got rid of. I hate to say that about a human being, but it's true. Where when it went from Girardi to Thompson, one of the reasons why people embraced the decision is that it was a different mood. It was a different edict. It was a different way of doing business. And certainly in the first year, 2 or 3, the players really responded to that change. This weekend has been nothing but heartbreak for the people who live in Philadelphia. It started Friday night with a big win. The Flyers did win at home. Nope, they lost. That was Friday night?
Saturday.
That was Saturday.
Sixers lost.
I knew someone lost. I knew someone lost on Friday night. Sixers lost on Friday night.
It's just too much heartbreak.
Phillies came out of nowhere to win, which that was great. But then the Flyers fans said, hold up. Don't start winning now if it messes us up. And certainly it did mess us up because the Flyers lost on Saturday at home. In terms of, people going there, there was so much excitement, so much momentum. The ticket prices, the cheap seats were in the $600 range.
Yeah, they were nuts.
People were really hoping to close out the first round of this series at home. Caitlin's talking to us. She is who we need in terms of like fan support all the time. And then they lost last night. And I think when people think about the Flyers, we've got an image of Citizens Bank Park, but when they talk about the Flyers, they were in Boston, and the goalie of the team, Vladar, just with, I think you can call it the most unluckiest mistake ever, tipping a goal in. It basically caught the back part of his foot.
Correct. Game 5 was messy, to say the least. But we also forgot to throw in there Game 4 of the Sixers, which was Sunday. But I think a lot of Sixers fans would like to forget about that one.
And the Sixers will play again tonight.
They
So
will.
again, I want to bring up the billboard just so you know what we're doing, when we're doing it, who you can count on to give you this information. You heard from Corey Seidman already. He is the Phillies reporter for PHLY. Thought he did an excellent job. Bob Cooney's up next. We're going to join him at 1 o'clock. Just a legendary columnist, talk show host. He's one of the beat reporters for the Sixers. He knows his Flyers. He knows the Sixers. We'll have him talk both. And then we're also going to hear from Scott Grayson. He's the executive producer of sports right here at Fox 29. He's going to have some information that you're going to want to hear. And then 2:45 live, there is a Phillies press conference, and you're going to see it on many of our different platforms. You're going to hear from the team that made this decision. Coming up right after the break, you saw the Queen, the First Lady in Washington. Rob Shooter is a guy that knows his stuff when it comes to anything and everything royal. He's also on the gossip beat. What is going on with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry? He's going to tell you stuff you won't see anywhere else. Here's what it looks like when there is a lot happening in and around the country, quite frankly. You're looking at the Capitol. Why? At 3 p.m., King Charles of England is expected to address a joint session of Congress. This is happening on his second day of a 4-day visit to the United States. This speech will come 35 years after his mom, Queen Elizabeth II, stood before both chambers of the U.S. legislature and had a little joke when she was there. She said, "I hope you can see me." So it's just one of the things that's going to be happening there. Again, your money. It is in the green. It's not as green as we saw just moments ago, but green is something we will take. For the past couple of weeks, your money has not been doing well. Below, that's a shot of Washington, D.C. We do believe that camera is waiting there to see the King and the Queen of England. And then, of course, we're looking at Xfinity Mobile Arena, something I call the Xbox, because two teams that play there are still in the hunt to get out of the first round of the playoffs. Both of them are struggling. One guy who is never struggling, never having any problems, you probably follow him on Instagram, The Naughty Gossip. You might have read his new book. Rob Shooter, a pleasant good afternoon to you.
Hello, my friend. I'm very British today. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. All right, so let's talk about the nuts and bolts first. Let's talk about the King addressing the joint chamber of Congress. What do you expect all of us to hear from him?
Yeah, this is major. The last person to do this was his mother in 1991, so over 30 years ago. This is a big deal. I think what we're going to hear here is a lot about democracy, a lot about the special friendship. Charles is really good at being an ambassador, a dignitary for the United Kingdom. He's not a very controversial person, so I don't think he's going to get up there and say anything that is going to shock the world. However, one insider tells me who is traveling with the king that there will be a mention of the pain that Jeffrey Epstein has caused, which is obviously something very close to him and his family with his disgraced brother, the former Prince Andrew.
I was going to ask you because the king and queen want nothing but to be sanitized of all scandal at all times, right? It's the complete opposite of you and I. And the fact that they continue to mention the name, to bring it up, when you would think they would just go tunnel vision and pretend like the connection doesn't exist, it's interesting that they are willing to bring it up again.
Yeah, they seem to. They know they have a problem here. This has rocked the family. The former Prince Andrew situation is very, very delicate. I was back in the UK just a few weeks ago, and people are really angry about this. He was invited, the King and the Queen, to meet some of Epstein's survivors while he was here. That was politely declined. However, for him to not acknowledge this, I think would probably be a mistake. So he is going to say it, I'm told, in that speech, but he's not going to dwell on it. He's not meeting survivors. This is going to be a speech about Britain and America. And if you were watching what happened earlier today at the White House, he's really good at this. He's got a charm about him. There's something magical about being a king. We have prime ministers come and go. We have celebrities that come and go. Kings, queens are normally around for a long time. And so he's got history. He's got years and years of history behind him. And I'm told he's looking forward to it. He loves America. And he's actually very, very close with President Trump. He enjoys President Trump. He thinks he is a lot of fun and rather refreshing. And so I'm told the last 2 days, the king has been having a really good time.
I love that. You know, I mentioned this to my teenage daughter. She's not really much of a royal follower. And she said, isn't the king sick? Like, is it okay for him to travel like this? And I said, I think that he has an army of physicians and many people taking care of him. But his health obviously has been widely reported, and he looks great.
He looks great. He looks great. He's getting the best healthcare in the world. He has cancer. This is something he's going to die with, not of, is what my insiders tell me. And so he would he rather be at Balmoral Castle or at Buckingham Palace? Maybe, but you have to remember, even though he's a king, all the decisions are made by the government. The government sent him here. There's a real tense moment between Britain and America, and the Prime Minister Starmer in Britain is hoping that King Charles's charm and wit can help ease some of those tensions. And I think so far the answer is yes. I know that the sources I spoke to in Whitehall, in the government offices in Britain, are thrilled with how the trip is going so far. They even giggled today when the president revealed that his own mother, when she was a little girl, used to have a crush on then Prince Charles.
Oh, well, you know us Americans, we love the British. John Travolta loved Lady Diana, Princess Diana, of course. All right, Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, the grandparents, the royal grandparents are literally on American soil. And I think so many people were thinking this is an obvious time for some type of reconciliation, or at least the king to give his grandkids some Legos or some other toys. I mean, come on, endear them in some way. Give us what you have.
Not going to happen. So there were discussions about 3 or 4 weeks ago to try and make a meeting happen in New York City. So tomorrow the King and the Queen travel to New York, and I think Harry and Meghan have such a toxic relationship with President Trump that DC is probably a place where they didn't want to go. I get that, but they could have come here to New York. Tomorrow night there's a private party here in New York. I know that Anna Wintour's going to be there and Martha Stewart, and so that looks odd that he can find time for Martha Stewart and Anna Wintour but not his son. However, let me defend the king a little bit here. After that Australian sort of quasi-official royal tour that wasn't official at all, the palace now are really concerned about this. They don't believe that Harry wants to hang out with his dad because he misses the family. They think he wants that photo op. Harry seems to be charging forward with Meghan, becoming their own royal court, and that's something that very much upsets the palace. And remember, Queen Elizabeth did not want what is happening right now. Harry and Meghan wanted to be part-time royals, where they went to hospitals, they did charities, and then they made money on the back end. The Queen said, absolutely not. You're not doing that. They obeyed the Queen. Now the Queen is no longer with us, and the two of them have realised they don't need the approval of the palace to do royal trips, and so they're going to keep doing it. So Buckingham Palace and Harry at the moment, the king and his son at the moment, there's real tensions there.
Yeah, it's a shame. Just forget about the fact that they're royals. I mean, a grandparent and grandchild relationship is a special relationship. And, you know, people are disappointed that they won't really be able to have anything like that. What's in the book? Why do I need to buy that book?
This book is #1 on Amazon bestsellers, so thank you to everybody that has bought it. It's only been out a week now. It came out last week. It is about 4 entertainment insiders who get a job on a morning show. And on the morning show, 5 days a week, they gossip about all the stars. However, it quickly becomes very evident that the real gossip is not about the celebrities, but rather about them. Each of them at the table has a secret. Basing a book around a TV show is delicious. You work on TV, there you go. It's the most exciting place in the world. And so it's funny and dramatic and tough and kind. It's every emotion and the sense that every day you have to put on a show. It's that time bomb, that really delicious environment that I set this story in, which is ultimately about friendship, a boss from hell, loyalty, and of course, gossip.
Woohoo! All right. I don't have time to read, but if I did, I'd be reading that book. Rob, listen, we appreciate your credibility. We know that you are the insider in the room, especially for such a historic visit. So thanks for making time for us.
It's always good to see you, my friend. Take care.
Ta-ta, TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Pip, pip. Tally-ho.
Bye, babe. All right, quick 2-minute break. We're going to be right back. We're still talking Phillies, Sixers, and so much more. Welcome in, everybody. We're looking at Citizens Bank Park for one reason and one reason only. That is really where the eyes of the Philadelphia sports world have turned today, because just about an hour ago, the Phillies organization announced that they had let go their manager, Rob Thomson. He was in that role for 4 years. At the beginning, when we switched from Girardi to Thomson, the players loved it. They embraced it. They started doing very well. The fans liked it as well. And I think this decision is really being met with a mixed review. Don Mattingly will oversee this team. He'll be the interim manager now until the end of the season. Bob Cooney has been just about every different titled job in sports columnist, radio host, all of it. So you've seen this town with all these different changes and how we react and how the teams react. So first of all, Bob Cooney, how the heck are you?
I'm doing well, Jen. How are you today?
I'm great. So what do you make of this? What are your thoughts? I think a lot of people thought they'd give him at least until May to try to right the ship. So what are your thoughts about this decision?
Yeah, I have a few. Having been around Rob Thomson a lot last year and a little bit this year, I know how much the players like him and how comfortable they are playing with him. And when I say that, as soon as it comes out, comfortable isn't a place you really want to be as a player sometimes when things aren't going well. So I guess that's the Phillies, the higher ups thought here in getting rid of Rob Thomson. But I was doing a podcast this morning for On Pattison, and I said there, like, maybe John Middleton should come out and say, look, this guy's a really good manager, as proven by his track record. We're going to ride him through this season because that's who he is. And I got done saying that, and about 10 minutes later, he got fired. So we'll see. A shakeup was needed, and you can't fire players. So this is the route I guess they had to go.
Don Mattingly, most recently the bench coach, also the dad of the GM, which is a unique environment, first time a relationship, I should say. Is he the guy to fix this?
No, I don't think so. Maybe temporarily, something a little. But Don Mattingly said when we were at the winter meetings, or I'm sorry, right after the winter meetings, he got hired. And at his press conference, he's like, no, I'm not day-to-day manager type anymore. I'm older. I have grandchildren. I don't really want that responsibility. Can he maybe make a tweak or two that'll put some fire in this club? Maybe, Jen. Maybe that's what they'll get from him for the rest of the season. But I have the feeling from what he has said in the past that if he wins every game from here on out, I don't think he wants to be a manager in the major leagues anymore. And that's fine. He loves being a bench coach, and he's great at it. These circumstances have pushed him to a place where he has to go to. But I just don't think he's the long-term solution, no.
And just real quick on this, is it the spark they need? Is it going to work? Are we going to see a different team? Are they going to win tonight, next week, next month?
It might. You never know. I mean, Rob Thomson came in here, and nobody really knew who Rob Thomson was. And you alluded to it earlier. He takes over for Joe Girardi, and everything just started clicking. They turned it around right away. Wind up going to a World Series. A little bit of a deeper hole that Don Mattingly is taking over than Rob Thomson did, but you just don't know. Baseball, 162 games, it's just different. You just don't know. But the numbers suggest that the Phillies have some real work to do to get themselves at like an 85 win mark, which would be where they have to go in order to try to be a playoff team.
The numbers suggest that the Sixers also have a long way to go in being successful in the playoffs. They play again tonight. They were beat handily. What are we going to see tonight? Is it worth watching? What are your thoughts on the Sixers at this point?
Yeah, it's always worth watching, right? Because when you don't expect them to win and they do it, that's worth watching. I don't expect them to. I just think Boston is. You and I have talked about this, Jen. I think Boston is just so much a better team, and they showed that on Sunday. They showed it in Game 1, and I thought Friday night in Game 3, where they only won by 8 points, I thought the Sixers played just as well as they could play, and the Celtics still beat them. You do have Joel Embiid back. Anytime you put the best player on a team and he comes back, I'm of the belief that the team is going to be better. But they were set on playing a certain way in order to beat the Celtics, which they did in Game 2. Having Embiid come back, does that change all the plans? Does it make things harder for the team? I don't know, but it certainly didn't look good on Sunday.
All right, so last question. I think everyone yesterday going into the Flyers game, walking around, talking to people, I'm like, how do you feel? They're like, hopeful. I'm hopeful. No one was like, this is a slam dunk. And I think this morning we woke up really sad. We were riding this thing. There's, all kinds of rumors that Matvei Michkov is very upset with Coach Tocchet, because of the healthy scratch. What happens briefly with the Flyers? Do we see any hope for this team?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, there's
Right.
still hope. Absolutely. I didn't think they were going to sweep Pittsburgh. I thought it was going to be a longer series, as most did. Pittsburgh's got like 3 or 4 veterans that are going to the Hall of Fame. They're not going to roll over and die. And Matvei Michkov, tough boogie worms. Like you're a second-year guy that didn't come in shape, and Rick Tocchet made the right move by going to bump. And I think the Flyers are still in it. They might even close it out tomorrow night if you burn that jacket that you guys keep throwing around on game day.
The jacket's gone. The jacket's
Good.
gone.
Burn it. Get
It's
rid
not
of it.
here.
Bury it.
We also got rid of Keith. He's not here. We fired Keith.
No, don't get rid of Keith. Just the jacket.
Okay, Keith, you're back. But there's no jacket.
Attaboy.
The jacket, no. The jacket is done. And that's
Good.
a really sad thing because it looked good on me.
Orange isn't a great color. Jen, you look good in anything now.
Thank you, Bob. All right, so what I'm
You're
hearing is yes for the Flyers, probably not for the Sixers. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, that's what I'm laying down, and you're picking it up.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. We appreciate the help.
All right, you got it. Thanks, Jen.
Okay. 2 quick minutes. We're going to go to a quick break. There's a lot happening. You're going to want to be right here. Even Keith is going to want to be right here. All right, this is something that it's not, well, this is the New York Stock Exchange. Right now, it is green, but now it's flat. We've been watching this since we joined you guys at noon today, and they're basically, the tech sector is really what is driving what is happening here on a Tuesday. Basically, people are wondering what is going to be happening with that OpenAI lawsuit. Remember, we heard from Anthony Mangaluzzo about an hour ago that Elon Musk and a group of investors originally wanted OpenAI to be a nonprofit. They wanted it literally open for everyone to use it. At some point, Elon left. The investors made it a for-profit, made a ton of money, and now Elon is suing that group, wanting billions of dollars, and basically saying he'll use that money to reinvest in the product. So OpenAI has fallen short of targets for sales and users ahead of just a really big ratings reporting season that they're expected to deliver, right? And so basically also the shares of their partners, companies like Oracle, are also slumping because of all of the comments revolving around the business plan, the business profits, and everything right there when it comes to the Open AI model. And so now investors are reportedly on what they're calling high alert for clues of what AI plans as the Magnificent Seven Tech Megacaps report. Basically, it's a quarterly report, but it's going to include Alphabet. It's going to include Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft, as well as Apple. So a lot of people are just kind of cautiously waiting to see what will happen as they are still digesting the news that the UAE is leaving the OPEC cartel. So we've been talking about this. It has largely been both the tech sector that drives these numbers, as well as the energy sector. So two different big sectors of the economy driving these numbers. And again, it's hovering in the green. It's hoping to hold on to the green. But at this point, it is. So we're going to celebrate that. One more quick break. We do have Michael Babcock, the team from TMZ, has a lot of different news they're reporting on at this hour. And we're going to hear from Greg Payne. Just a horrible shooting, a horrible stabbing this morning. The news is happening. You need to be right here. As you know, all morning we cover so many different topics, from breaking news that is very serious to sports and everything in between, including weather. And this story was really what consumed the news gathering team this morning in Gloucester County. Basically, the Camden County Prosecutor's homicide unit was in Gloucester Township, not Gloucester County. And there's a woman in her 50s that's gone. So we're going to talk to Greg Payne. Just a chaotic story, to say the best, right? To say the least.
Yeah, no, Jen, you're exactly right. I mean, it is a very tragic situation that occurred in this just quiet Gloucester Township neighborhood. And the home that authorities were kind of focusing in on is this green one right here. And you can see that there is some blinds that are kind of messed up. But this home right here is the focus of this investigation. Now, police say just before 2:30 a.m., they were called to a home on the 100 block of Freedom Way in Gloucester Township. Authorities say they arrived to find a man identified as 50-year-old Jerome Moore inside the residence, armed with a knife covered in blood. Morris has been taken into custody. Now, police then found a stabbing victim in a third-floor bedroom with heavy fire and smoke conditions. That victim died on scene and is being identified as 51-year-old Monica Morris. Now, two additional adults who were inside the home at the time were able to escape the fire without injury. Jerome Morris has been charged with first-degree murder and third-degree possession of a weapon for an unlawful purpose. Now, he was transported from the scene to an area hospital hospital and will be remanded to the Camden County Correctional Facility pending a detention hearing. Now, the cause of the fire, Jen, is still under investigation, and there may be more charges once they determine how the blaze actually started. Now, while we were here on scene, we did see what appears to be family members. They were inside the home. They were taking out some possessions, and then they left. They declined any comment or anything like that. But just a very tragic thing. You could see it over everybody's faces here in the neighborhood. Everybody's shocked about this situation occurring. We had an opportunity to speak with several neighbors, but it's just something that really caught a lot of people off guard, especially how they talk about this being such a quiet neighborhood. Many of the neighbors we spoke with say that they've seen this woman and this man in passing, always said that they were very kind and very nice, mentioned that they had kids as well. So just hearing about this all unfolding is really shaking everybody throughout the neighborhood.
So we think the 51-year-old woman has children.
Yes. Well, what we're told is whatever, they haven't established what the relationship is of these two folks, but there's kids involved in this situation.
You just hate it for so many reasons. You're heartbroken. You're thinking about those kids. Everyone deserves a mom. So thank you, Greg. We appreciate your reporting. The other thing that we're looking at, speaking of moms, is the last time someone addressed the Joint House of Congress, it was King Charles' mom. Queen Elizabeth II was the last time to speak in front of the joint session of Congress. This is a live image right here in Washington, D.C. What we are waiting for here are King Charles and Queen Camilla. This is day 2 of their 4-day United States visit. We just heard from Rob. Tomorrow we'll take them to New York City. But before they go to New York City, just an amazing invitation on behalf of the joint session of Congress, where the King will address both chambers of the U.S. legislature. That is going to happen at what time? 3 p.m. Yeah, 3 p.m. And this is the last time this honor was basically given to anyone. It was to his mother 35 years ago, Queen Elizabeth II. And again, there was a history there, but also a bit of humor. At that point, she basically said, "I hope you can see me," and celebrated the shared democracies of both nations. That is what we expect to hear. We expect to hear a lot about democracy, about how these governments can work together, can help to each other, and can be united as they move forward. We do know that earlier today, the King and the Queen were at the White House for a traditional military arrival ceremony. They did receive military honors, complete with a 21-gun salute. And then we do believe that a state dinner in the White House East Room will cap off just a really busy day for the King and Queen of England, who happen to be the grandparents of 2 people that live in California, Prince Harry and Meghan's children, who we understand will not see their grandparents when they are here in the United States. I can tell you that is a story that you will probably see on TMZ, on all of their platforms. We do know they now have TMZ DC. At the same time, they're covering a couple of other issues, other stories. The first one does begin in Washington, D.C. Michael Babcock is here. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm great. You know, we did hear a couple of your reporters asking questions when the Secretary of War was addressing reporters and the people in the room. We were like, okay, TMZ DC is on the case.
I had the same reaction, Jen. That they let them in there and even let them ask a couple of questions. I think overall it's been really well received. You know, there are a handful of politicians who are, they're famous in their own right? Almost as a musician or an actor would be. Ted Cruz, AOC, we know the names, but there are hundreds and hundreds who are not, and you may not even recognize the name. I know I wouldn't. And I think those politicians especially have been very actually welcoming. It surprised me some, Jen, that they've been as welcoming as they have been, and I think they are excited to show their personality. Not that we won't ask, difficult questions at times, we will, but I think they like getting the publicity that we might be able to give them.
So, two things happened over the weekend, and they continue to have legs, as we say in journalism. People are still talking about this Jimmy Kimmel conversation. Yeah. You know, the First Lady is now involved. Bring people up to date on what's going on and what we know today.
Yeah, so it started a couple of days ago, earlier in the week, before last week, I should say, in the days leading up to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, there had always been a comedian who would sort of like MC the event and tell jokes. This time around, instead of a comedian, they had this mentalist, Oz Perlman, who was has become pretty popular in his own right. So he was going to be sort of the, the person kind of in charge of the festivities. Well, because they were not going to have a comedian, Jen, Jimmy Kimmel on his show said, I am going to do a faux White House Correspondents' Dinner monologue, as if I was there. So he told some jokes. Now, one of the jokes he made was that he said Melania Trump had the glow of an expectant widow. Not too much made about the joke in the time or after it happened. And then obviously that is until Saturday when there is a shooter at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We all know about this now, obviously. And I think a lot of people then looked at that joke and, sort of interpreted it in a little bit of a different way. Melania Trump then, Jen, comes out and calls on ABC to fire Jimmy Kimmel. A couple hours later, the president comes out and he supports his wife and he says, yeah, they need to get rid of this guy. So you fast forward then to last night as Jimmy Kimmel was on the air for the first time since the shooting on Saturday. And if you thought he was going to back down or he might apologize, that wasn't the case at all. Now, he didn't viciously attack anybody last night, but he did say, one, this was a joke about age, so he tried to clarify this is not an assassination joke, nothing along those lines. It was simply a joke about him nearly being 80 years old and obviously Melania being far younger. He did say, though, I agree that the rhetoric should be toned down everywhere. And he said, Melania, I would go and speak with your husband. He can be kind of the person to start the toning down of the rhetoric because Jimmy says that he is most responsible for it. So not backing down, again, not a vicious attack, but he did not say sorry. If people were looking for that, that didn't happen last night.
Clooney, his wife Amal, they attended an event. They're not known for really getting into the middle of a chaotic situation, which I think could be a label on what's happening here. But George Clooney did say, he commented on it.
Yeah, no, it's look, I think obviously the rhetoric needs to be toned down. I think it's gotten out of control, especially of late. It feels like people have been at each other's throats more so than they ever have in the past. Social media doesn't help in that everyone now has a microphone if they should so choose. And it's made for a tense situation. We've obviously seen 3 attempts on Donald Trump's life in the last 20 or so months. That's unacceptable. Whether you like the guy or not, obviously, it should not be a game of life or death. So I understand where the Trump family here is coming from, and I think everybody who was in that room on Saturday is shaken up. That was a really, really scary thing to have lived through, and thankfully, we know the Secret Service agents were able to act quickly. Not that this was a perfect security setup, because it clearly wasn't, but they were able to act quickly and stop this from really turning into a disaster. So I understand it, but I also understand what Jimmy's saying, and that, look, I'm a comedian, I tell jokes, and I'm certainly not the only one who has made inflammatory comments at times.
Megan the Stallion and Clay the Thompson. No, I'm just calling that. I think, again, it's a chaotic relationship that just it keeps going, and now she's pulling out of her Broadway show.
Yeah, this was shocking. I thought there was only a few weeks left that she was supposed to perform, Jen, but she is done on Friday, she says, because obviously she's going through a lot right now, and she will not be acting in the Moulin Rouge Broadway play because of that after Friday. So people who had bought tickets, and you feel bad for the fans who expected to see her and maybe in cases bought the tickets just because she was a part of the show, they're unfortunately going to see somebody else in this role that she was playing. She, of course, is going through this breakup with Clay Thompson. She obviously, and it's pretty clear. You read between the lines and what her statements have been, that she was totally caught off guard by this happening. She says that he all of a sudden said that he didn't think he could be monogamous and couldn't be in a committed relationship with just her. She wasn't going to stand for him being with other women, and because of that, she breaks up with him. But nonetheless, I mean, this was a relationship that I thought seemed like it was destined for the long haul, that, you know, marriage was much more likely than a breakup. They had seemingly bought a house together, Jen.
Yep.
They were always together. He names his boat after her. So I was really shocked when I saw this on Saturday, and I think you can really tell that's had a big effect on her. As you can, you know, imagine and understand, she started crying at the end of the show on Saturday night, and then obviously today she says, "Yeah, I'm done."
All right, I don't want to keep you forever. However, you are the executive producer of sports there at TMZ. And it has been a heart-wrenching week here in Philadelphia. Tonight we have a Sixers game. Tomorrow night we have a Flyers game.
Yeah.
If you had to pick between one or the other making it through a series in the playoffs, where are we going?
Oh, I know. It's the Celtics, when they knock down those threes, they're so tough to beat, and Jason Tatum has looked really good. I'd probably go Flyers, Jen, but I say go Sixers. Win tonight, and obviously the series looks a lot different. You know, you get this thing to 3-2, and you know anything's possible. As a guy who was a Yankees fan and watched his team, you know, give up a 3-0 lead back in 2004, it can happen one game at a time. But the Celtics have looked really good.
Please don't mention that you're a Yankees fan ever again. And then, do you think that because I mean the Phillies, I mean, so enough with that. But I think the Flyers are going to win at home. Flyers in 6.
Hey, possible. Why not? That's why I think Flyers is probably more likely than the Sixers coming back. I think that's probably that's a lot to ask, being down 3-1. But again, crazier things have happened, and I hope they both pull it out. I'm no Boston fan, Jen, so let's go.
Thank you. Because that Yankee thing, I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I know you're busy today. You're busy every day. We appreciate that you take the time to talk to us. Okay?
Anytime. Thanks for having me. It was good to see you. I'll see you soon.
And there's room on the Phillies bandwagon once they start winning. I'll save you a spot.
All right, I'll be right there with you then.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a quick 2-minute break. We're going to be right back. No Yankees here. right, we're going to start right there, bottom right-hand side. That is from the city of Philadelphia. We do believe that the escaped prisoner, the person who escaped from Pennsylvania hospital, has been apprehended by police. And there you go. The other thing that we're doing, we're looking at what we call stakeout cameras. And so there is, in the words of Bob Kelly, motorcade madness. So let's go back live to our live camera that is in Washington, D.C. Remember, King Charles and Queen Camilla are on their way. They're expected to speak at a joint session of Congress at 3 p.m. And so these are the streets of Washington, D.C. And interestingly, we've been watching this. We had a motorcade. Where'd the motorcade go? It turned off the street? Yep. All right, so maybe they're going to expand. Again, this is day 2 of a 4-day royal visit where Queen Camilla and King Charles are visiting the United States. Earlier, you did see live here First Lady Melania Trump and Queen Camilla. They were like outside. They were looking at historical artifacts. That was when their husbands were meeting privately. The First Lady and the Queen also joined a dozen local middle school students. Oh, I wonder who those people are. You know, the great thing about when you guys are here with us, we're all watching all of this together. So again, these are 3 live cameras in and around the Washington, D.C. area. 2 of those cameras are waiting to see if they can catch a car with the King and Queen in them. And then that 3rd live camera, that is Capitol Hill. That is where the King, for the first time in 35 years, will be addressing a joint session of Congress. And we have heard from royal insiders who believe that a lot of the comments, a lot of his speech will talk about the democracies and who do we have, what alliances, and more what unites us than what divides us. We do know that the Trump administration and the King really value the relationship, and they want to make sure that the relationship is strong and fruitful into the future. And as I go back to what happened earlier in the day, I mentioned that the First Lady and the Queen were meeting with a group of middle school students. What's really cool is they went to the White House Tennis Pavilion for a cool event that was highlighting the use of technology in education, specifically virtual reality headsets and Meta sunglasses. So that was pretty cool. They were on one side of the tennis court, and then on the other side, the children, you know, could be seen using their headsets. And so what they were doing is they were looking at landmarks of the United Kingdom, which included Buckingham Palace and Stonehenge. So it was pretty cool. And so they were kind of going back and forth and kind of showing, again, what in these 2 countries unites us as opposed to what in these 2 countries divides us. I do believe, is that a live image from, nope, we don't know what that is. The other thing is, we do know that the First Lady, Melania Trump, did put on a pair of those sunglasses, the Meta glasses, and they did ask the Queen if she was interested in doing the same. And I think that she was like, no, I'm good. I don't really want to do that. So Melania being more, okay. One of the police officers is speaking about the president. The escaped prisoner. Back here in Philadelphia, we have an escaped prisoner. We're going to listen in now.
Received from residents who lived on the block, very helped us out and taking them into custody.
Do we know how he escaped from Penn?
That's what we're still trying to look into, and the investigation will be dependent with that.
Was this guy a danger to the neighborhood being out on the run like this, and is this neighborhood now safer because he's off the street?
Yeah, the neighborhood is safer now. Anyone has a potential for violence, but we're happy to have him in custody.
Anything else that you said that I missed from before? I just want to make sure.
No, that's pretty good.
I mean, how many hours was he gone?
I would say about from 10:30 in the morning.
So he's gone about 3 hours?
Just about.
Okay, so he's gone 3 hours. I mean, did you guys feel like this guy was dangerous?
No, he didn't have any weapons on him because he was being released from the hospital. So we just wanted to make sure we had him in custody to keep the community safe.
What was the issue with the family members that showed up here?
That I'm not 100% sure on. I can't comment on that. I haven't even spoken to any of his family members or anything like that.
Okay.
Where is he going to go now? Is he being booked?
Probably he's going down to police headquarters for further investigation.
We heard he got tased. Did he get tased?
That I'm not 100% sure either. I have to get back to my headquarters and figure all of this out or what exactly happened, but surrounded him being taken into custody.
Was it neighbors that spotted him?
I believe there were some people in the area who gave us information on where he could be possibly at, and we came on this block and ultimately located him.
What's your name, sir?
Inspector Kapana Massaquoi, KPANA MASSAQUI. Inspector of Southwest Police Division.
Thank you, Inspector. Appreciate it.
So there you see it, the inspector from the Southwest Police Division talking about the prisoner that escaped from Presbyterian Hospital around 10:30 this morning. As we've been reporting here and on multiple platforms, block to block to block, just a massive police presence. And it sounds like when he was finally apprehended, it was because people in the neighborhood helped find where that individual was. Interestingly, it sounds like members of the person's own family showed up at one point. We do know that the Hunting Park section of Philadelphia was one place they were looking for him. We know North Philly as well. What we don't know is if anyone was at risk during this time, but certainly we are happy that the individual has been apprehended. 2 minutes, we'll be right back. In this room, there are several people, and all of us have a conversation during breaks, and we've all had a very robust conversation about cherries. We are disappointed in the news that Shayna is about to give us. Shayna, we're cherry fans here. There's a big group of cherry fans here, and we are not happy about what you're about to tell us.
I know it really stinks because I'm a big cherry fan myself, and I actually enjoy doing the pick your own cherries. Honestly, any kind of pick your own fruit, I'm all about it. But this year is going to be really different, especially for local farmers here in South Jersey. So we are actually standing on the farmland of Rowan's Farm, and they are really known for here in Glassboro for their pick your own cherries every year. And sadly, they won't be able to do that activity or offer that activity this year because of the deep freeze that we had back on April 20th. Those long stretches of freeze time overnight really killed the crops here. 20 acres of cherry trees obliterated. So this is kind of what we're looking at here. This is supposed to be where these cherries would have grown from. And you can see they're all pretty much dried out at this point, and there's no real way to recoup this. And so sadly, this farmer has to shut down business this season, and he's really, really heartbroken over this because, of course, this is something that's generational. It's been in his family for 3 generations. This is Stephen Rowan we're talking about. This was his grandfather's land and passed down to his father, and he is now in his late 50s running this land himself, and it's really, really difficult for him. All the work pretty much dying on him within hours because of this crazy weather that we've had leading up to this point. So sadly, they have to close operations for the summer, and they're hoping for a better season next year. But in his own words, he has nothing to offer because the freeze pretty much killed his crops. And so it's really, really hard for him to kind of come to those terms because at the end of the day, it is a business, right? And so he has to also contend with the fact that he has the bills to pay while he still has to maintain the land with hopes of next year being better. But they're closed for the summertime. They're closed for the season that he pretty much prepares for all year round. I'll flip the camera. This is where he would have usually had his check in and check out for the stands for the cherries. And you can see the sign right there, closed for the summer, no more cherries this year. So this is the newer piece of land that he has been working on. He just laid out the new fertilization, and this is supposed to be cherry trees for the next couple of years that should grow, but he won't see a crop coming out of this fresh land for another 5 years or so. And then all that you see back here has pretty much been destroyed because of the deep freeze. So there is no opportunity for him to sell this summer. And so you'll hear from him coming up later on in the shows. We'll have more from him, but certainly not great news. But the good news is there's so many people that know and love this farm, and the overwhelming support that the farm has gotten since making the announcement that they won't be able to sell this year has been great. There's a GoFundMe. Hopefully we get some more traction just to help the farm stay afloat while they work toward next year. But unfortunately, they're at the mercy of the weather, and sadly, the weather did not cooperate.
So, Shayna, I think maybe at the tulip farm or something like that, and they said that the apples are actually going to be at risk because of that late April freeze. So I think it's not just going to be the cherries. I'm pretty sure I heard so many different crops are being affected by that late April freeze. We didn't like it, but not liking it and having your whole livelihood based on it, 2 different stories.
2 different stories, yeah. And so he's really doing his best to stay afloat. And his stories, unfortunately, also isn't unique. To your point, there's another 3 farms within a mile radius of Rowan's farms that do the berries and the peaches and the nectarines, and they're all facing the same thing. And so it's a really hard time for farmers locally as they try to navigate all of this because he's not the only one. Apparently, if I go to any other farm, they'll probably tell me the same exact thing, that they're all up against everything. And so it's awful.
There's nothing better than Jersey produce. It's one of the things that obviously people come
here
to get.
This is like the thing people love.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Shayna. We appreciate the reporting. And, we send our thoughts out to that family and all the farmers because, again, we're complaining about it, but that is really, what it is that they base their whole life around. Quick break. We're going to come right back. We're still talking about the Phillies. As you know, there is a press conference that is scheduled for 2:45. We're going to have that live and so much more. 2 minutes. back, everybody. What we are looking at is two different live images from Washington, D.C. Why are we looking at this? Well, I will tell you, because the King and Queen of England are currently visiting the United States of America. Earlier within this program, you did see Melania Trump, the First Lady, as well as Camilla, who is the Queen of England, sharing some time on the White House lawn outside. What is about to happen about an hour from now, right? We believe it's going to be at 3 o'clock. I should say hour and a half. We do believe that King Charles will address a joint session of Congress. It's the first time anyone has done this in 35 years. The last person to do it was his mom, Queen Elizabeth. Throughout the day, throughout their visit, there have been so many special and historical moments. They had a big military parade, a cannon fire, military jet flyovers. So there has been a lot happening. We just heard from one of our royal insiders that the president and the king enjoy a wonderful friendship. And both of them are motivated to have a building and better relationship between the United States and the United Kingdom. According to our royal insider and according to a lot of the reporting that is happening, you know, the pool reporters that travel with the administration, they are around these people all the time. We are hearing that the bulk of the king's comments will revolve around the shared history of the United States and the United Kingdom, the shared ambitions, the shared positive things that they both want to happen in the weeks and years to come. But we have also heard that Jeffrey Epstein will be mentioned during his comments. Apparently at one point, the king was offered an invitation to meet with people who have said that they are victims of Jeffrey Epstein, and the king did decline that invitation. But we have heard so much about what is happening off camera. We know that basically the foreign leaders are talking about, again, what they can do to help each other as they move forward, you know, with everything that's happening in the geopolitical landscape. So again, about an hour and 15 minutes from now is when we expect to see this. But when it happens, you will see it right here. One of the other things that's going to happen about that time frame, 2:45, that is when we expect the Phillies press conference when they talk about Rob Thomson. Their manager has been let go. He's been fired. So they'll be talking about that. We too are going to talk about that in just a few minutes. Scott Grayson, the executive producer of sports right here at Fox 29, he's going to give us some insight that you probably haven't heard before. right, guys, this is an image we have been looking at basically since noon today. Citizens Bank Park, where later tonight the Phillies will take on the San Francisco Giants, right?
Yes.
They'll do so without the guy that was the boss yesterday. So manager Rob Thomson has been fired. The executive producer of sports here at Fox 29, Scott Grayson, is here. How you doing?
Well, it's a busy day, that's for sure. I'm doing okay.
So, yeah, I think you've been pretty candid. I think guys like Bob Cooney, columnist, no one thought it was good. People thought it was going to happen. They just didn't think it would happen today.
No, and so let's talk about why did it happen today. Okay, I think why it happened today was because that losing streak went all the way up to 10 games. They've lost 12 of their last 14. You have a point here, as they saw when they got rid of Joe Girardi, which was on June 3rd that year, that they turned it around with Rob Thomson and got to the World Series. You have time to turn this around.
Was that in the same season?
It was.
Oh my gosh.
So there is precedent, right?
Okay.
There is time to turn it around, but you can't continue to lose at that clip. And the way they've been losing clearly just yelled that something needed to change. We all didn't know what was going to change, but when you look at the schedule and the timeline, they had an off day yesterday. They just finished a road trip. They got back. There was an opportunity to really sit down, have meetings, figure out what are we doing here. They came up with the decision to fire Rob Thomson. Reportedly, they reached out to Alex Cora to see if he was interested in this job. He wants to wait till the end of this season to make a decision. At least that's what he told Dombrowski, reportedly. And so then they pivoted and said, well, we have Don Mattingly here. He's been a manager before. He will be the interim manager through the rest of the season. They've put that out there. That's what is now going to be the case.
Not just a manager before, a very successful, beloved World Series winning.
No, I don't think he's won a World Series as a manager. But no, and I don't think he did as a player either.
But like this guy is like, it's not a rook. This guy has been there. He's been there for the ups and downs for several teams.
Yeah, and what I like about Mattingly is when you look at his career as a player, he didn't strike out a lot. What is a big problem for this team right now? Among many problems. Striking out. Hitting the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, just,
So, I'm on sports Twitter, as I like to call it, X. Greg Luzinski, the Bull, right, who is, I think, paid by the team. I mean, he definitely has a barbecue stand there and everything. A couple days ago, he's always been loves the team, loves the organization. He said on Twitter, I think it's time for Kevin Long, the hitting coach, to go. I was surprised he was out there with that, which leads me to a lot of people thought that would be the first guy to get fired.
I went on record here on Sports Sunday to close out my final thoughts that night, and I said I thought that the change that would come, or that should come in my opinion, was let Kevin Long go. The approach to the plate has been awful. When you look at what they've done with runners in scoring position, listen to this. They are last in the league when there's runners in scoring position at getting hits. They are second to last in the league in driving in runs when there's runners in scoring position. You can't reach the goals this team wants when that's the case. Well, is that the manager's fault? It's clearly the players' fault.
Right.
They're the ones not hitting the ball. But there's clearly something wrong with perhaps the approach that these guys are doing. You get a runner on third with less than 2 outs. Every kid in high school knows, hit a fly ball to the outfield and we can score that run.
Yeah.
I don't need to hit a home run or even get a hit. We can score a run.
Advance the run.
They're not doing those things.
Yeah.
So that needs to change. And in my opinion, you look at the hitting coach for that. So Kevin Long right now still on the staff. We'll see what Don Mattingly does with all of that. And frankly, I'm very interested to see what his first lineup looks like tonight.
Okay.
Will Trey Turner still be leading off? Will Harper still be batting behind Schwarber? Will they flip? Is Alec Boehm even going to be in the lineup? He's hitting 143.
I saw that on a screen, and I was like, what? Now, okay, you just mentioned Don Mattingly. Preston Mattingly,
yes,
his son is the GM.
The assistant GM,
Assistant
yes.
GM. Like, does he call Dad? Yo, get Trey out of my life. Like, what do you think that relationship could be like?
I would imagine that they are very professional. They may talk at home about it, and have their thoughts. But I think once they get to work, they respect the boundaries.
Okay.
And I think that I can't imagine Don Mattingly having it any other way. And Preston's doing his job in the background. He will likely be the next general manager of this team. He's young, very smart. They love what his pedigree is and where he comes from. And I think where we're at now, Jen, is that Dave Dombrowski made a decision. You can no longer blame Rob Thomson for this. He's gone.
Yeah.
what it has set up is the dynamic that if this team does not make the playoffs, you're going to look at this hard, and perhaps Dave Dombrowski is the next one to go.
Okay.
That I don't think would happen until the end of the season. So see what they do here. Are they able to recover? Can they save the season like they did when Girardi was fired 4 years ago? That will all determine what happens next.
And it's not just any season. You have the world of baseball arriving in July to look at what has really been a gem of a franchise for year after year the past couple of years. You know, I was talking to Corey Seidman a little bit about it. We know this, every team gets a player, you know, as part of the All-Star game. But if we only have one participation trophy, meaning one dude, and we've had record numbers in years, and then who is it, right? Do they pick Schwarber? Do they pick Harper? Because then that person will not only be the Phillies representative, but really the face of this weekend, right?
It will, and it's funny you brought that up. I thought about that about a week ago, that they're in a position now where they may only get one player there. And how sad is that? The 250th year of the birthday of this country, the big events celebrating at that point around the city. FIFA will have just left. Major League Baseball comes in. The eyes of the baseball world are on this city. And when you could almost, after last year, just pencil in Kyle Schwarber in the home run derby, now I think you're left going, boy, they might not even have more than one player playing in the game. And what kind of crime is that? How sad is it that this team that was picked to win the division, which they still can, and the bar was set really high for this team, is looking at a place where they're at the bottom of the standings in the entire league.
Crazy.
And could only have one player in the All-Star game because that's what they automatically get.
So again, 2:45, big press conference.
Yep.
Your team is going to handle that.
We are.
There's a game tonight.
There is.
The Sixers are playing the Celtics, and you said anything goes.
I'm done trying to figure this out. This series is bonkers. Game 1, they lose by 32 points. Everybody, I think around the city was like, well, this was fun. It'll be 4 games and out.
Yeah.
Then they win Game 2.
Yeah.
They're competitive in Game 3 and almost win Game 3. And you go, wow, this might actually be a pretty good series.
Yeah.
The big fella comes back from his appendectomy.
For sure.
They lose by 32 points. I can't figure it out, and I'm not going to try tonight.
Wow.
I think, I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I wouldn't be surprised if they lost by 40.
Dude, you can't do that. You're the boss. Okay, wait. All right,
yeah.
I'm going to give you another shot.
Give me a coin. I'll flip a coin.
I'm going to give you another shot.
Okay.
Our Flyers.
Okay.
They're coming back on Wednesday.
They are.
All of sports Twitter, called X now, is like, I said game in 6. I said it was going to happen in 6. No one, but everyone on Saturday paid $600 for the cheap seats to go see a sweep. And for these, whatever they are, is out there on sports Twitter, beat writers, sports analysts say,
one of these.
I said it was going to be in 6.
So if I were to tell you before this series started that the Flyers would go into Game 6 with a 3-2 lead,
okay,
everybody in this city would have been, yes, let's
really?
do it. I think so.
Okay.
The fact they went up 3-0 is why all of a sudden everybody's like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And I think if you stop and you step back and you look at it, you had a young team that was not even supposed to be here. They did not have a lot of playoff experience. In that 4th game, they didn't know what it takes to close out a team and how desperate the opponent is going to be to keep their season going. They learned that.
Did they learn
went
it
into
again?
The game, well, I thought they were going to go into Game 5, where they'd won on the road twice already in this series.
Yeah.
But again, you got a desperate team at home, and that fluky goal that bounced off the board. Strange things are going to happen.
Right.
You're still up 3-2, and you're coming home. I don't see them not winning tomorrow night. I will say they win and close out the series.
Thank you.
So I can't go anywhere with the Sixers. I can't figure that team out. But I'll tell you, the Flyers are not going to lose Game 6.
Have I told you that one of my friends has diagnosed me with toxic positivity? She hates that I'm so positive.
Well, that's a good thing.
Hi, Joanne. My toxic positivity, again, it's an illness, tells me that if they win tomorrow night, and I too believe they're going to get this done at home, it will sort of be good because they will have had a little bit of adversity, and as they go ahead to the Hurricanes, they need a little bit of that grit behind the youth.
Yeah, they do, and they needed to learn. This is all part of learning what playoff hockey is really about. I think everybody here, there's a generation of hockey fans who didn't really get to watch this. They're learning what this is like, and it's great. Playoff hockey is awesome. These players had to learn it too.
Okay.
And I agree with you. They're not going to sweep the Carolina Hurricanes, so they had to learn what adversity is like and how to fight through it.
Keith, the executive producer
Agreed
of
with you.
Sports just said I'm right. So check yourself. Okay, Keith? We're going to watch everything that you guys do starting at 2:45.
Yes, thank you.
Keith will still be here, so I apologize. Keith, Keith!
He's not feeling well.
Yeah, right.
Awesome.
I know. My
Thank you
kids
so
say that
much.
all the time.
No, you're fine. You're cool. You're a genius. 2
Wow.
minutes. We're going to be right back. Thanks for all the help.
I need a copy of that.